Once, a long time ago, there was an evil dragon that lived in Death Mountain. This dragon was very terrifying, and he also ate Gorons. Using a huge hammer, the hero of the Gorons destroyed it just like that. This is a legend from long ago. But it's true. Long after that, history would soon repeat itself when the King of Thieves, Ganondorf, would resurrect the dragon in order to put fear into the Gorons. Eventually, the dragon would fall once more thanks to the hero of time, who used the Megaton hammer to slay the beast, known only as Volvagia. However, this wouldn't be the last time the dragon would roam the skies. No, there was one more time the dragon would come back. Only this time, he would need to be bigger. Big enough to eat a big Goron. Or 3 all at once. Hello everyone, my name is Dr.Caztendo. I know you probably didn't want another Zelda theory video from me, but I just can't help myself. I'm a Zelda nerd. I come up with a bunch of theories and ideas while I explore the lands of Hyrule and beyond. Hyrule alone has many mysteries still left to be solved, but today I've been very interested with the fossil in the Bottomless Swamp. And before you ask, no, it's not actually bottomless, I checked. But as for the thing that's in it, well, I couldn't tell you. Seems like nobody's interested in this thing. Some YouTubers have talked about bones before and the giant fossils, but everyone seems to overlook this behemoth. This thing is pretty huge and hard to overlook. It's crazy what this beast would have looked like alive. Looking on the map, we can see a better view of its actual size. I mean, sure, it could just be stone carved by bokoblins, but come on, these guys are dumb, and what would be the point in all of these skulls being so crammed together? Nice. YouTuber Nintendo Mass Bandit made a theory about what these skulls really are, but go watch that video now. He theorized that they are Goron skulls. Even though his theory isn't right, it also wasn't proven wrong, so who's to say it isn't right? Where am I going with this? Well, come on. We were all thinking the same thing, and it's that this fossil looks like a giant Volvagia skull. I know it might be a stretch to even call this thing a fossil, but allow me to tell you how fossils are formed, if you don't mind. Ahem. Fossils are formed in different ways, but most are formed when an animal dies in a watery environment and is buried in mud and silt. Soft tissues quickly decompose, leaving the hard bones behind. Over time, the bones eventually hardens into rock. So this thing is literally in mud as we speak, and also it looks like rock to me. Ow. I also have to point out the difference between the textures of the skulls and ribcage. The ribcage appears more bone-like and appears to have aged less than the skulls. This could be caused by the fact that the ribs weren't buried like the skulls were, but that wouldn't really make sense. Or would it? Well, in humid conditions, bones might be broken down in a decade or so, but in a dry climate, it could take thousands of years. So, if Bottomless Swamp is actually a, well, swamp, then the swamp would most likely be really humid all year round, since that's what swamps typically like to do. However, even though the ribcage is more bone-like, they both would have turned to stone, but since the skull was most likely buried at some point before Breath of the Wild, it would have fossilized more along with the skulls that seemed to be buried at one point as well. My only assumption for this is that the Bottomless Swamp wasn't originally here at one point, and that it was either a hill that eventually eroded away due to the river nearby. When buried, minerals often absorb into the bones, and seeing the large limestone deposits, they could have most likely absorbed into the ribcage, making it the way that it is now. There is also malice on parts of the ribcage and some other parts around the fossil, most notably the malice right in front of the fossil. Perhaps Ganon tried to resurrect the beast, but failed, thankfully. Another point of interest is the giant hole on top of the skull, and also the silver longsword sticking out of the horn. The sword doesn't appear to have been here long since it's not rusted. But the hole on the other hand, well, that's a different story. This hole is obviously the cause of death, but by what? Truth be told, these remains hold a ton of mysteries alone. The beast could have been alive during the first calamity, and could have been used by Ganon to take on the Gorons or any other opposing threat. Even though I want to call it Volvagia's skull, the features on it are not the same as Volvagia. The skull in Bottomless Swamp is obviously larger, and the horns don't appear to match Volvagia's horns. Honestly, the dragon Dinral has more of a similar look to Volvagia than this fossil does. The fossil does appear to look like Beast Ganon from Ocarina of Time, respectively. At first I thought this was a dragon like Volvagia, which it probably is, but it could also be the remnants of the past calamity that happened 10,000 years ago. Maybe this was the skull of the Calamity Ganon. This probably isn't true since the Calamity is only capable of making creatures out of malice. Sure, it's able to make stall enemies, which are made of bone, but even so, they don't last forever, so there's no way this could be Calamity Ganon from 10,000 years ago. Like I said before, it could have been alive during the Calamity and used on the Gorons, which explains the 3 big skulls crammed together in the ribcage area. Those were Bigorons. Bigorons were most likely used in the first Calamity War, but all died out because they were easy targets, which is why we see them all over in random spots. The 3 skulls next to Bottomless Swamp are different. They appear as if they were eaten by this giant beast. If these giant skulls are indeed Bigoron skulls, that only means that these poor creatures suffered a terrible fate. We know in Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf resurrected Volvagia and fed the dragon Gorons in order to put fear into the Gorons. Ganon possibly tried to do the same thing when resurrected as Calamity, but this time, he made Volvagia bigger, and like Volvagia in Ocarina of Time, this Volvagia suffered the same fate. The object that was used to kill it was most likely a hammer of some kind. It's apparent whatever, or whoever killed this thing, did it from the outside, since the cracks are not seen from the inside. I know that sounds obvious to mention, but I couldn't leave any small detail out. Another creature also existed that kind of reminds me of this beast, and that is Star-Lord. Now, I know that is a huge stretch since Star-Lord is a lot smaller in size, and was located in the Arbiter's Grounds, which is in the Gerudo Desert and Twilight Princess respectively. The remains for Arbiter's Ground still exist in Breath of the Wild. I only bring this up because while I was trying to find anything about this thing, I came upon a Reddit comment asking the same questions I'm asking. He thought the beast looked like Star-Lord or Beast Ganon. He didn't really get a straight answer either. Sorry friend, me neither. The Astoria had no answer, creating a champion also had no answer. Even the guy didn't really care about it. Maybe Nintendo also forgot about this beast as well. Whatever this fossil is supposed to be is still a giant mystery no one seems to care about. But perhaps when Breath of the Wild sequel rolls around, we will have a need for this beast. Whether it's an enemy or a boss, as long as I get some closure on this forgotten location, I'll be able to sleep. But for now, the nights will be sleepless, and I apologize if I left anything out. It was really hard researching this fossil since there really isn't much on it, so it was mostly speculation. So I'd like to thank you for actually watching this far. I'm trying to make my theories as fast as I can, but I don't want to rush them. But please, if you like this video and you want to support it, hit like, and I'll know if you want more. And subscribe to see more Zelda videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.